Eynat, so good to see you again. As always, love having our conversations, and thank you for letting me record this one. You talk a lot about how much you've automated your own day-to-day, and I think that's interesting. I'd love for you to talk about that because I'm trying to be more. I'm a one-man show in a lot of ways in my team, and I'm trying to do a lot more with AI. But yeah, tell me about that. What's you've gone head first.
Yeah. So first, I'm not an engineer, okay, and this is
Yeah.
why it's very exciting for me, and this is also why I really enjoy this period because I think there is this constant friction in the world between engineers that can, just they could build their own kind of software and
Hmm.
kind of solve their problem in a very engineering kind of way, and the operators, the non-engineering people that likes to solve problem, likes to build things, but needs to do that completely differently. And now I probably have like, I don't know, 20 or 30 agents that are kind of my kind of day-to-day operation. And I think there is still something in the world that when you say I have agents, people are looking and said, what is she talking about?
What is
But it's
that? Yeah.
literally kind of processes that runs in the background and are doing things while I do other things or while I can kind of multitask and do a lot of things that would take me more time, but also kind of would really kind of clear up my day. And
Hmm.
I think this is the beauty of AI. I mean, first, it's addictive, okay? But I think it's addictive in a way that you understand every time that you can challenge yourself and kind of do new things that you didn't thought that you can do. Like, I mean, I don't know, I started with summarize of my emails and kind of to-do list and so on. And then
Yeah.
you go, okay, I mean, take all of my tasks, all of my calls, all of kind of the dashboards that I have, all of the information is flying through and summarize this for me. So there are so many things and the collaboration and things that you can do. And there is one thing that I keep telling my team is that we all left the old world to the new world. Now, this is
Yep.
a shift in our mindset because, in a way, we need to rewire ourselves again. And I think the last time we rewired ourselves, I mean, was when we all kind of moved to cell phone. You know, the first generation of cell phone, the second generation of cell phone, the third generation of cell phone. But now it's so quickly that you really need to keep up with yourself. And sometimes it's interesting with AI that you don't understand what you can do. And then you see people doing something that you still do on the manual way. Said,
Right.
how stupid am I? I mean, they just did it with AI. Why didn't I thought about it? So I think that it's becoming kind of a way that you need to kind of train your brain, think about how do I do that with AI first, right? I mean, so you need to train your brain to be AI first, and then
Yep.
everything else become easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. This weekend, I was having a conversation with someone, and, I can remember a time, 15 years ago when we would say it was kind of a joke. Like people would get into a debate about something, and you'd say, well, there's something in your pocket that could give you the answer, which is Google, right? You could pull it up. Now, I literally said this to someone this weekend. They were complaining about something. I wish there was an app for this or that. And I said, well, now you could make that. It's in your
Yeah.
pocket. Like you could literally pull out ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, and you might be able to have a workable, functioning product by the end of the day if you just ideate with it, right? And step back and think about that. That is super exciting, right? It's also super scary,
I agree.
but it's super exciting because now we can all solve problems at the edge, is what I would call it, in a lot of ways. So I love it. So, Eynat, one of the things that you guys are very, very forward about is how much this can impact the global workforce, right? And the orchestration that you guys demonstrated. We talked about it here on the show with the Workforce 2030 Summit you did. Talk to me a little bit about that in terms of just what opportunity you think that shares for businesses, workers, the workforce, just in general.
Yeah. So first, we are just launching a plan called The Day After. Okay, and it's not kind of a gloomy kind of movie. It's really kind of a good thing, and we are
Not
challenging organizations.
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We are challenging organizations to kind of to come and do a process with us where we come on their side. I mean, very the Palantir kind of way of things.
Yeah.
And sure that we set KPIs that in 12 weeks we can reduce 12% of their total kind of cost that they're spending on
Wow.
operational in managing workforce. That generally speaking, currently the only barrier to get to better kind of workforce infrastructures is people. Okay, as
Hmm.
people's vision is hesitation. I mean, it's not about budget, it's not about time, it's not about kind of long processes. It's really about kind of making this step. And from the other hand, I constantly hear kind of clients telling me, yeah, I mean, we need to create a presentation to our management. What do we do with AI? Can you help us? I mean, what can we do with AI? And I said, it's not about what you can do. I mean, you can do endless things. It's about what you're going to build. So for us, this is really about this. I mean, I think that we've built Papaya to meet the infrastructures, and we always had this KPI. How do we implement Papaya in weeks, not in years, not in kind of any kind of crazy amount of time? Because I don't think that this is a great experience when you are constantly kind of just adding country or two countries a year. It's very
Yeah.
hard to ROI. And how do you get into the organization and don't expect them to have the whole checklist that you want to get? So data is going to be mess. It's going to be super disorganized. It's going to be on Excel sheets. It's going to be sometimes just not even on Excel sheets, on somebody kind of brain or paper or so on. And you get from there to fully kind
Yeah.
of realized kind of experience. And I think this is really exciting. And I think that companies that will do this today or within kind of the next, let's say, 6 months, in 2027 will jump like, I mean, a crazy kind of jump in their ability to automate and to create more agents and to reduce this friction. And I actually wrote this on LinkedIn recently because I see this debate about chief payroll officer. And I don't think that we will have chief payroll officer. I think that we will have chief workforce data officer, which
Yeah.
basically is a strategic kind of person that orchestrates the data, the agents, the budget, understand risk, because compliance, risk will always be there. Classification risk will always be there. I mean, people that didn't get paid correctly or people that are still waiting for something will always be there. But we'll get them to a place where they can really plan and strategize KPIs, their organization, satisfaction, how they bring more, how do they look on the global kind of picture in a way that is very strategic. And this is where this role is going to be super exciting.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we talked on here once about, we had, I think it was Todd Acevedo from SAP called them data stewards. And I agree. I don't, look, I don't, I'm a champion of anything pro payroll, right? I think it's wildly misunderstood. It's wildly underrated. It's wildly dangerous and it puts companies in danger that they don't understand. And I think it does require a seat at the table. But what that actually looks like in title and eminence and that sort of thing doesn't really matter. I think it's more just about the fact that it's when you engage them, how you engage them, and what that relationship is like in terms of integrating payroll into the strategic elements of the business and the HR and that sort of thing. You see that a lot
Yes.
right now in HCM,
Yes.
contextual layers. Do you
Yes.
think payroll becomes one? I think
Yes,
so.
we
I
we
think
already
EOR
see
is.
this because the
Yeah.
problem in payroll is that it's not binary, right? I mean, it's not just deduct like 50% taxes or 20% taxes and so on.
Yep.
It's a whole story. We always said that, I mean, the people that wrote payroll actually, I mean, were planning to do this in Excel, but eventually wrote this in Word, right? Because
Mhm.
it's a whole story about, I mean, this is the instruction. If you are female, this age, have this and this kind of amount of kids, this and this kind of factors and so on. And it's very
Mhm.
hard to determine. And for us, I mean, in the course of the years, that was always the biggest kind of place where we spend the most time understanding the stories that clients kind of set in their payroll kind of comments. Please
Yeah.
do this, please check this, please. I mean, there is tons of stories. It's not structured. It's very hard to get this structured. And now with AI, you can do that because you can just let them kind of, have this story, even record. Okay. So we are going currently to a world where you can record kind of your payroll kind of instructions. We will
Yeah.
analyze them. We will probably kind of get to 85, 90% kind of accuracy in explaining to you or kind of sending back to you, is this what you mean? And doing the whole validation in the background, so not wasting of your time and so on, looking on patterns. Did you do this last month? Did it ever happen in your payroll? Is it part of your policy? Are you just kind of asking me to gross up something, but I mean, this expense was never grossed up in your kind of
Mhm.
company, so probably you are wrong. And I can help you kind of eventually understand because I think that the main thing here is tons of details, very, very limited time, and a lot of people that are changing. I mean, payroll people are not there forever, so you need to understand the company policy, structure, history, and so on in order to understand this. So definitely, I think
Yeah.
it's already there. I mean, in many many aspects, and it's just gonna get better. So it's gonna get better from the fact that you really can just talk through that. I mean, assure that it's happening. Validation, we're gonna get better and better in terms of kind of full automation. And then the last mile, which we are very excited about, and we were always very excited about, is payment, because generally speaking, for me in the world, and I mean, we kind of worked through this vision 3 years ago when we acquired a payment company and become a financial license kind of payroll company. is the fact that payroll and payment needs to be connected. This
Yeah.
disconnect actually breaks everything that you digitalized and automated, because you take payroll file that has been fully validated, hand it over to someone, and now he needs to upload this into the bank kind of format, and it breaks. And all of a sudden, everything that you did,
Yeah.
just breaks. It's not automated, it's not validated, it's not one kind of data flow, and it's definitely kind of not within the ecosystem that you want to keep the data, guarded and secured and safe. So this is really kind of the last mile,
Hmm.
and I think this will also kind of get us to the world. And we've demoed this in the orchestration that we had on 2030, and there are some use cases it's already happening that you can just ask to withdraw some funds immediately because maybe
Yeah.
you need them today. Maybe you are the type of person that just want to end the day and get your money, and you don't want to get like a paycheck at the end of the month. But this allows kind of financial freedom to many, many, many people.
Yeah. Agreed. Why is it that payroll payments cross border seem so much more difficult than regular payments? Can you explain that?
Sure. Because first, payroll are high value, okay? And high
Yeah.
value are tend to be kind of more sensitive and fragile in terms of
Hmm.
KYC and sanctions and eventually kind of, regulators and so on. Because the world still is not global or international as we think, okay? So generally first, compliance works very, very locally. If you are getting paid from a US based company and you are kind of a US based citizen, it's very easy for your compliance officer for your bank to just identify you. They have like open resources to all of kind of the data sources and so on. They know that it's you in a very, very, high likelihood. If we are crossing countries, they don't have this access any longer. This is
Hmm.
not kind of an access that they have. They have open banking data. This is not a private
Yeah.
information data. So the risk is starting here. And then they need to understand, okay, who is this person? How long is it going to take me to identify if she is really a real person? Is she is really doing
Right.
a legit work? And then you get to the sanction part and the kind of the places where you said it's just not worth it. So it takes more time to validate. Data, unfortunately, is very inconsistent between banks. So you would think that, we are in 2026, the bank will have one consolidated kind of format that they will share, that the data schemas and so on will be very, very easy. It's not. It's still kind of chaotic. So, this is another kind of thing that it breaks. And basically, we are still relying on relatively kind of old protocols of kind of sending transactions in between banks and using SWIFT, which
Hmm.
is an interconnect system, instead of going direct. So all of those things are creating a lot of discrepancies and a lot kind of places where you are just kind of, you don't have control or you don't have kind of the visibility. And the
Yep.
last thing is that when you're looking on the connectivity between payroll system to bank, every payroll system in the world localized kind of the data to their local banks. So, there
Right.
is a protocol. Everybody knows how to take kind of a bank file, a payroll file, and kind of upload it to the bank. It's not working with international bank. Nobody did this effort because it's basically an integration effort that is not worth it. And payroll is still very localized. When you report to the tax authority in France, they expect you, they don't care if
Right.
where you are. They expect you to have a local bank account. They expect you to act as a French kind of citizen in a company and so on. So if you are local, everything is easy. If you are kind of outside of the country, everything is very complicated. And I
Yeah.
always take this kind of very, very simple kind of thing. I'll say, okay, if we are both currently in the US and you want to send me $1, okay, it will take you 30 seconds, okay? I'm
Right.
in the UK, it will take you 3 days and will cost you probably
Yep.
more than $1 if you want to send me. So
Exactly.
those are the things where eventually international transactions, high value, breaks very, very, very badly and becoming very expensive. And the visibility to them is quite bad. And this is where we spend a lot of time, a lot of efforts just to create those bridge and to assure that this is
Yeah.
becoming a seamless process and that we can commit to real-time transaction and that we can commit the money we lend in the bank account. So we work very
Yeah.
hard behind the scene in order to assure that this is happening.
Yeah, I think you guys are a very early mover, right? And you've put together all the pieces and parts and developed the parts I think that make all
Yeah.
this possible. And you've really met the future. What are your thoughts on stable coins? I personally feel like that's where this is all headed, right? We're going to be settling in real time using fiat based solutions. I mean, even I don't know if you know this. I've mentioned this on my podcast a few times. They made a big deal about it when they launched it, but it's still kind of quiet. PayPal will actually pay you 4% to hold interest to hold their stablecoin, which is tethered to the US dollar. That's significantly more. I think the most you can get out of a high yield is maybe 3.5 now. That tells you the value of these stablecoins, right? And or the value of having them put into play. And I think obviously PayPal is trying to
Yeah.
build trust with that. But that's easy money, right? When you think about savings. But what are your thoughts on stablecoins as kind of the future of this money movement?
So stablecoin is actually already kind of the present, not the future. It's
Yeah,
just going to
right.
grow. I mean, we launched Banco, which is a whole kind of digital wallet connected to our banking kind of infrastructures that is based on stablecoin, based on US dollars, I mean, local currencies, fiat currencies, but also on stablecoin. But the card, the credit card that we eventually kind of allocate to this is eventually being settled on stablecoin, which allows
Yeah,
immediate transactions, which allows much faster kind of service and so on. And this is a Visa and MasterCard kind of service, you know. So in the
yeah.
back end, a lot of the banks, a lot of kind of the large kind of treasury are already working on stablecoins. So this is becoming a very, very easy and convenient and much more affordable because it's a new protocol and it's much
Safe.
easier to maintain.
Yeah,
Safe, new, much easier to maintain. You know, it's new technology basically versus
yeah,
kind of old kind of technology.
yeah, yeah.
And it's already happening in terms of kind of treasury and settlement and so on. So I can currently have our Banco app, for example, and a card and get into Starbucks and basically
Hmm.
pay with a card that will charge a stablecoin account. So
Yep.
those things are already happening because the last mile was always very, very hard. I think that stablecoin are kind of the hack to the crypto because crypto is always kind of, you know, you have a lot of volatility and nobody
Yeah.
understands kind of how much my Bitcoin is worth. One day I'm rich, one day I'm not that rich. But stablecoin are actually secured. I mean, the
Yeah.
large kind of, not all of them, okay? There are lots of kind of stablecoin, but the large ones that are connected to kind of are regulated according to kind of main currencies in USD, Euro, and so on. They're secured, they're traded.
Right.
Basically, kind of, this is digital money. And if you think about it, it's not different from the fact that 10 years ago, we used to have like coins and bills in our wallets. And now we have, you know, like phones that we tap and we pay.
Right.
In
Yep.
the terms of the experience is exactly the same. And this will become norm also because it removes a lot of the friction in between kind of currencies and cross countries and so on. And also kind of make things much more cheaper, affordable, and obviously kind of quicker.
Yeah, it's more inclusive too, right? I mean, I find that's one of the things I love about Money 2020 is the themes that come out of there is just how much more access to money that people everyday people have and businesses, right? And that's where I think when you've got such a big number hitting the P&L, it becomes a liquidity strategy in a lot of ways, right? The ability to
Yes.
settle money in real time. So I absolutely love that. And look, you talked a little bit about this around the AI. One of the things that I think is huge win for payroll is just the inbound data. There's so many things coming at payroll from so many different directions in so many different formats that I love that AI can now ingest those things unstructured, structured, and make sure payroll's working from the best data in real time. So one of the things I want to talk to you about too is just kind of how do you feel like you guys have done a really good job of speaking to the CFO? I feel like better than maybe some of your peers. And a lot of that probably has to do with the payments element of this. But is the CFO taking a bigger look at the payroll and HR space? And the reason I ask that is because we've seen some of the HCMs like HiBob acquired a solution for workforce planning. I know UKG and Dayforce are very good at those things, and that's coming closer finance sort of elements coming closer to HR. What are your thoughts on that and how that's all of this is converging?
Basically, payroll is normally the biggest expense and the biggest liability that the company has. So
Yeah.
it's a mutual kind of responsibility between CEO, CFO, and CHRO in the organization. Now, I think that generally speaking, when organization is crossing probably 5,000 people, definitely kind of multinational organization, it has to sit on the CFO table because this
Hmm.
is where it's becoming treasury, it's becoming data consolidation, it's becoming very, very, very important to understand how you are closing kind of this month. For us, for example, we invest a lot of time on the last mile of payroll, which is the payroll ledger. And how do you consolidate this into something that you can just consolidate and import to any kind of ERP with no effort? Because eventually, this is where you close the books. This is where you are looking for discrepancies. This is where things
Hmm.
happen. Now, the biggest kind of discrepancy between HCM and payroll is the fact that HCM manage the contractual kind of data, right? I mean, you have gross salary of X, but then payroll kind of holds a lot of other components that not necessarily are reflected in the HCM. And this is where the tension creates. Like you have variable
Yeah.
items, you have just, I mean, one-off things, you have some nuanced things that are related to the country that not necessarily are in your contract and so on. And this is where kind of the data is not the same data. I mean, when you are looking on someone from the HCM side and to ERP side, this is not the same data. And we spend a lot of time kind of looking on this journey, not trying to change it, but not trying to ignore this journey. And
Hmm.
generally speaking, we always said that we want to be the infrastructures that help HR to just do whatever they need in a quieter way and in a safer way for the organization.
Right.
Because if HR is creating a lot of noise to the finance team, finance will come, CFO will come and say, hey, don't hire in those 10 countries. Sorry. I mean, this is too much noise, this
Yeah.
is too much friction, and so on. But if this is a seamless process, everyone is happy. If you have visibility, if you have good treasury management, if you have good reporting on time, if you understand what's happening and you are in control, I mean, and it's all about control, this is where things happen. So for us, I mean, ignoring the CFO or not speaking to the CFO
Yeah.
first is a huge mistake, and everything ends with eventually what they need to see in order to feel comfortable and safe. And we always said we are not trying to replace the HCM. I mean, we have a lot of respect to HCM in the market. We work with everyone. We are trying to assure that we also take the very large components and nuance on payroll and not trying to kind of just ignore them. Really kind of
Yeah.
bring everything in, embed everything in that you have in order to assure that it's have a full completeness from HCM to ERP.
Yeah, agreed. I think there was a period of time where we went down the payroll marketing in the industry went down this path of employee experience. And the reality of it is that's actually not payroll's job.
I agree.
And they can't really worry about that. They have to, if they do their job, the employee experience part of their job will work out,
The only
will
experience
happen.
that you need to have in payroll is to get
Yeah.
money correctly and on time. That's the only
Accurate,
experience
timely,
that
compliant.
actually
Yeah.
that's actually you
Exactly. Yeah.
care. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think we did ignore some of that there was just this ignore and not that people were ignoring it, but I just think the marketing wasn't talking to some of the bigger issues. And what worries me is that I think historically payroll has been undervalued against the risk it poses, right? And the impact it poses to the P&L, like we said. So yeah, a lot of work to be done there. But just coming back to this payments part of this, what are your thoughts on Revolut stepping into the payroll world? Like some of the payments providers, Payoneer, coming this way, obviously having the the pay infrastructure, but then maybe turning on the capability to support payroll, where that's not core to their business. I'm just curious what your what your thoughts on that.
We welcome them in. I think the merrier the better,
Yeah.
honestly. And I think that we are all competing in the incumbents of the world, which are
Hmm.
still Excel sheets and, local
Yeah.
kind of accounting firms and basically local kind of processes that happens on ground. And I think it's a huge market. And I think as much as it's going to become a standard, it's better for everyone.
Yeah.
So we were actually kind of predicting, this is why also we stepped into payment very early, that this will happen eventually because this is
Yeah.
a great source of kind of payment. Um, Payment have the muscle that a lot of actually kind of HR company don't have. And this is regulatory kind of lenses and compliance and so on that is very important because if you wear this hat and you do payroll, you actually do payroll better for your clients. This is how we see it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great move, and I think it helps for everyone because eventually, kind of, it creates more and more kind of competition from one hand, but more and more kind of great products that we are all developing and we understand, and a new standard in the market. And I think in 3 years' time, it won't make sense to anyone, and we still see very large companies. I'm sure that you as well doing payroll fully manually with tons of Excel sheets that are trying to consolidate. I think we are probably 2 or 3 years away from just not accepting it, as exactly as you will not see
Yeah.
currently a company running without ERP or HCM.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do like the fact that payroll is getting very, what I call adjacent friendly, right? It's
Yeah.
more embedded now in SaaS. You're seeing payroll pop up in banks. You're seeing payroll pop up at payroll or pay money movers. I agree. I think it's good for the industry. I think it's good for the service, and I think it's good for innovation, right? Every time I go to Money 2020, I'm like, wow, wow, wow. There's another thing. All these shiny toys, and I love that. I think it's good, right? It puts more in the
I
game.
agree.
But So, as we go forward here, I maybe get you to prognosticate a little bit. AI, what are your thoughts? What do you hope for the future with payroll and AI as we move forward?
Just to get to a full autonomous kind of payroll. I think we
Yeah,
are probably a year from that. I mean, full experience, full autonomous payroll, and then probably 5 years until it will become like, a standard. Nothing else will be kind
yeah,
of something that people will do. And I think that one, you are just getting a full kind of agentic kind of payroll. This is the world of opportunities. This is where you hand over from your desk everything that honestly doesn't require a lot of kind of your talent, your kind of
yeah,
experience, and so on. And you can just basically kind of do much more. And I also think that part of our payroll processing will be agents, will be vendors, will be kind of, it's not going to be only human full time workers and so on. So a lot of new kind of personas will be added to the payroll.
yeah. I agree. I'm seeing more of the data scientists starting to come into the teams, especially the big enterprises. Right, a lot more data
Yeah.
scientists, a lot more process reinvention type folks. Change management, I think, is going to be really big. Look, I've said before, payroll leaders, HR leaders, they're business leaders. They just sit in a different department. I felt like when I was at Disney, we knew more about the business and how processes worked in HR than
Yeah.
most of HR. And we were able to solve things that way because we were so focused on that. And I think it's really a win. There's a lot of great payroll executives out there that are on the verge of rising, and I think really shining in their organizations. And that's what I love. But look, to wrap this up, any predictions for 2030? I know you gave me some there, but you guys are doing a lot of interesting things. What do you think we're going to be talking about in 2030 and beyond with all this?
Look, I think there are two sides of it, right? On the bright side, we're going to be talking much more about strategic and how do we kind of optimize and strategize. And I think workforce cost will be a very, very big thing. I mean, eventually, kind
Yeah.
of companies' optimization will be a very big thing. Companies will definitely be shrinking, but also kind of will look on optimization per kind of worker and so on. And I think payroll is really kind of a major component there. Definitely kind of payment, multi-type of payments, savings, and how do you get people kind of more financially educated, which I think currently payroll is lacking. I mean, is not getting
Yeah,
there
that's a
just
great
because
point.
busy, but financial kind of and wealth management is super important. The dark side of it is I think that we will see more and more kind of fake workers. And we see today already kind of the rise of fake identity and fake kind of documents and so on. So, with every good things come kind of the dark side of it. So I think we will always also need to understand how we vet people, how we vet kind of their work, how we vet that they're real people and so on. And this will be interesting. For all aspects, it will be interesting. But I think that the most interesting thing is that we started this decade quite bad with COVID and quite a lot of things that are kind of happening in the background that are not great. And we will end this decade in the most exciting period, I think, in the history. That we are all becoming kind of builder, innovator, reinventing our role, reinventing the things around us. So I'm super excited about that.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing. Where would you like folks to reach out to you and connect?
So obviously, LinkedIn is a good start. Email, not great, but you can try.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we're all over the place, all conferences and so on. Obviously, in our website, papayaglobal.com. And I mean, I just challenge people that wants to do a change, that wants to kind of brainstorm about how they do digital transformation, workforce transformation to raise this discussion. We'd love to show, we'd love to kind of tell, we'd love to kind of help them get there. I think it's a really, really exciting period for innovator and for creators.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I appreciate you, Aynat, and thank you so much. And congrats to you and Papaya. I know you guys are doing some cool things. I'd love to stay in touch with that. And yeah, we'll share your details and make sure folks get connected to you. So, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much.